Welcome to the Brass Junkies, a podcast from the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network featuring interviews with the world's greatest brass players by two thoroughly average ones, Lance LaDuke and myself, Andrew Hitz. Today's episode features trumpet soloist Mary Bowden. She tells us all about the many different performing outlets she currently enjoys as an internationally touring soloist and as a founding member of both Serif Brass and the Chrysalis Chamber Players. She also talks about the teacher who caused her to change career paths a few years ago, hint, we pray for him regularly, and about how she met her professional trumpet-playing husband at, of all places, an orchestral audition. She tells us all about it next. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my co-host, Lance LaDuke. How are you doing this morning, Lance?
I'm so much that way that it's difficult for me to describe the way.
I would ask you to elaborate, but I really don't care. All right, thank you, Lance, for being you. I kind of mean that. Before I introduce our guest for this episode, I did want to ask you a favor, which you're probably getting used to if you're a regular of the show. If you have a moment to go to iTunes and give us a quick rating and possibly a one or two sentence review, it would be very helpful in other people finding our life-changing podcast. I mean, let's be honest here. So, but if and a bunch of you have already done that, thank you so much to all of you who have done that and who have told your friends about us, etc. We really appreciate it. And along those lines, the second half of the commercial, and then I will stop talking about it, is if you would like to become a patron of the patron. If you would like to become a patron of the show, you can go to Patreon. There was my confusion. Patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, and you can pledge a certain amount of financial support per episode, as low as $1, and which would be a total of $2 a month, and which is a small amount, but a number of you have already done that, which again we really appreciate that. It makes it's great to see the support, and it helps us to pay for everything from the web hosting to the equipment to the large amount of money that we pay each guest. As our guest knows, not really at all. But there's a lot of other real expenses. So that's the end of the commercial. This episode, we are joined by trumpeter Mary Elizabeth Bowden. How are you?
Great. How are you? I'm
doing fantastic. Mary travels all over the place. It reminds me of my former life, her itinerary. It seems like she's always in another city or in another country, and it makes me remember how cool that was, and it makes me remember how happy I am that I'm not doing that anymore. So, but she's just playing everywhere, and so we wanted to have her on to talk about the many different projects and many different streams, if you will, that her career has successfully, simultaneously right now. So, can you maybe just give us an overview of, of kind of how you got started, and then kind of your progression through your career, and then up to where you are today?
Sure. Do you want me to start at college?
You can start in preschool. Yes, I was very adept at the blocks. I was gifted. You can start wherever you would like.
Sure. Well, I went to the Curtis Institute of Music, and I studied with David Bilger, and then I went to Yale. After that, in my 20s, I was really focused on just getting an orchestra career. I really thought that was the only way to make a living and pay bills, and so I did that for most of my 20s, and then in my late 20s, after studying with Jens Lindemann at the BAM Center, he convinced me that it was...
the name is familiar, but I can't place it.
It was about 5 years ago, and that's when I finally became brave enough to pursue what I really wanted to do, which was more solo work and chamber music. And since I've been doing that, so many doors have opened, and I finally feel like I'm on the right path. So I've had an interesting path that I'm grateful for. I am very comfortable playing in orchestra, and I still do that quite a bit. And now I'm able to create my own projects and pursue solo work, and so life is never boring.
What if someone at a party says, what do you do? A musician says, what do you do? What's your answer? Like, what do you lead with?
Well, I tell them I mainly do solo and chamber music, and it's interesting because I know a lot of younger students will put labels on players. What orchestra job do you have? And if I were to list all the jobs that I have, I can list them now. I mean, the orchestra positions I have, I'm third trumpet in Richmond Symphony. I play in Des Moines Metro Opera in the summer. This season I'm starting as principal trumpet with Sarasota Opera Orchestra. And I play principal trumpet in Artosphere Orchestra, which is a festival for a couple weeks in the summer. So that's just the orchestra work that I do. But the majority of the work that I do is solo and chamber music. So it sounds like that I'm doing everything, but I kind of am.
When you say chamber music, what can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure. Well, in the summer, I often spend some time at the Marlborough Music Festival as the lone trumpeter, which I'm really grateful for. And the groups that I've started, I have a brass quintet called Serif Brass that I started this past year. My chamber music group in Florida, we're now in our 5th season. We're called the Chrysalis Chamber Players. And that organization, I use... We do a variety of different concerts. We do trumpet and strings, maybe trumpet and cello and piano. So the roster is flexible. And so I get to perform works that are for trumpet and chamber music. And that's been a really great organization to have for that. And I also work with a pianist a lot. We're going on a tour this fall. Milana Stretseva, she's also on my CD. And so I'm just constantly looking for new collaborations with my friends. And it's really fun and interesting. The spring, I'm probably going out to see an old buddy of mine who I went to Curtis with, and we're doing some trumpet percussion concerts. And so we'll probably start a duo with that. And it's just really exciting to create new avenues to make music.
Do you feel like the repertoire has a common thread? Are you, like, for example, did you say the Chrysalis is the group you have down there?
Yes.
So Chrysalis and Serif, do you think that in terms of the musical mission, are they similar, or is one specialized in older music and another is all contemporary, or does there... I'm not asking the question very well. Do you feel like the artistic mission of all the groups is the same because you are a common denominator there, or do you feel like they each have kind of a different mission?
They're both very different because, brass quintet's different than trumpet and chamber music. But I think the mission is the same, that I love putting together different programs that will keep the audience excited and that not only have music that people know, but also pushing the boundaries too. For Chrysalis, we're mainly based in Naples, Florida. So I do have to be mindful of the audience. But I also do push the boundaries with the repertoire. Our first concert this season, we're doing a lot of standard repertoire, but in the middle of the program, I'm doing James McMillan's, it was a coincidence, but the piece is called Serif. It's a piece that Alison Bossom commissioned. And I think it'll be a little bit more difficult for the audience. But what I found in Naples is that if you tell the story of the piece and explain it, they really will like it. And so I kind of like to mix new works and old works and put together creative programs.
What was the name of the composer
cool.
for that? We lost you for just a second. Just his name was what we missed.
Oh, sorry, James McMillan.
Got it. Yes, Skype is. Everything was crystal clear, and then those two words dropped out. So, sorry, Lance, you had a question.
Well, I was just going to ask, do you end up playing the full complement of trumpets, or do you sort of specialize in a handful of them? You guys just sort of carry them around like you have more stuff that you carry around than Andrew does with a tuba sometimes.
I often travel with 6 trumpets, and I find that need all of them. Um, I love piccolo trumpet. Last year with Chrysalis, we played Brandenburg Concerto Number 2, which has now become a piece that I have programmed a lot for this season with different groups. And yeah, so I'm pretty flexible with the different trumpets. It just gets crazy when I try to fly with all of them.
You realize that you're coming for sympathy to someone who used to travel the world with both a euphonium and a trombone, and then someone else with a tuba. So yeah, maybe you're supposed to be polite to the guests, but yeah, maybe you've come to the wrong place, Mary.
Well, I don't even want to ask you how many times your instrument's probably been damaged. I mean, I can't even imagine. It's so difficult.
There was one month, a few years ago, there was 1 month where I had to visit repair shops on an emergency basis in Anchorage, Alaska, in Linz, Austria, and in Hong Kong. It was all within a month. So that was really fun. That was really fun. I really missed that.
So, Mary, you how much time are you spending each year on the road? It sounds like you've got a pretty well. Start with that part. How many days are you gone each year?
I would say I'm probably gone at least 40 to 50% of the time. And it kind of changes month to month. So it's not too much, I guess.
Well, that's plenty. and some of that is in one place for a few weeks, and then is other of it, I'm assuming, is, like the bag drag thing where you're lots of hotels and lots of airlines over a period of time. Is that pretty much how it goes?
Yes.
And do you book all that, or do you have management that helps you, or what? How does that all work?
I do have 2 managers right now that are helping me. But I found that through the years, a lot of it's through personal connections, and the managers are a big help too with negotiating contracts, and they have their own set of contacts too. So it's, you don't just sign with a manager and expect everything to be magical. Everyone has to work together and be very collaborative with the contacts, and it works well, I think.
How did you land management initially, or how many years into your career did you do that, and how did you do that?
I started approaching managers a few years ago. It was probably after 2 years of learning the solo rep again and feeling a little bit more confident with what I had to offer. And I just started cold calling managers. I sent emails with the website and all my materials, and I had a couple of weeks in New York, and one of them decided to meet with me, and he wanted a trumpet on the roster and liked my materials, and so he decided to give me a chance, and that's where it started.
Well, so for some of the younger players who are listening, or they're just getting going, so you say you just cold called some. How did you even find them? Where did you know where to start? How did you pick the ones you picked? Like, what was that process like from the first day you said, you know what, I want management? So then what are the steps that got you there?
Well, the years prior, when I lived in Richmond, I had 3 jobs there, and one of the jobs I had, besides playing in the symphony, was doing artistic admin for the orchestra. And so I really got to know Musical America, and I was in contact with a lot of the managers. And
what's Musical America for anybody who's not familiar?
It's this book, and you can also get, I have the online subscription now, but it lists like a lot of concert series within the world, all the managers, orchestras. It just has everyone's information, and it's a really great tool for seeking out concert series, and plus it lists all the managers. And so my first step was to look at the managers in New York, because that's where I was going to be. And I looked at the rosters, and if a roster had really famous people on it, like Joshua Bell, I knew at that time that was not what I wanted to contact, because that was too big. I was just getting started. And so, but then if they were managers that had people I'd never heard of, and that I looked on their websites and they were not working, I wasn't interested in that. I was looking for something kind of in the middle. And so the manager that I approached has a really great roster with people that seem to solo with a lot of the regional orchestras, and I thought that would be a great start for me. And I think that's really smart, because you don't, if you don't have any solo experience, which at the time I didn't have very much, You know, you don't want to approach Columbia Artist Management. You know what I mean? It's just, you have to
Sure.
be kind of smart about who you approach and look at their roster and look at what they book and see if it's a good fit for you.
And what? How did you just sent an initial email or a phone call, or what was the most successful way that you contacted those folks?
Email actually worked fine because, but I think you have to have your materials ready. I had a really great recording, a really great demo recording that was online that someone could just click on and listen to. I had some video at that point also of live performance and also a website. And so I found that through the years, I keep improving on each of those elements. And what has gotten the most attention are probably the videos that I have on YouTube. I think that's gotten me quite a bit of work because it's everything is there. I have about 50 videos now, most of them live performances, and some of them are, from my CD and things like that. So it's a mixture of a lot of different kinds of media that people can see.
How big of a role has or does social media play in terms of the relationship that you have with your management? I mean, I'm sure it's an important thing for your direct relationship with your fans, but how much does your management rely on you to use social media as you go along?
One of my managers, Karen Kubitis, she helps me run my Facebook page. And I created the Facebook page maybe about a year and a half ago, and she started helping me with it last January. And I found that having someone who really knows how to schedule the posts and what kind of market to reach, that really helps a lot with building the fan base and having consistency. And I found now that when I go to concerts, I meet people that follow me on Facebook. And so I'm really having that direct contact with the fans, which I think is really important. I mean, I saw a Chris Bowie concert, and I was just really impressed with him, how he just stays after every concert and will talk to every single fan that wants to talk to him. And that's the reason why he has such a big following, not only being a great musician and performer, but he connects personally with the fans. And so I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
It's I really like how intentional your selection of management was, and just that it was thought out, and that a roster that's really big. Not only would they probably not have been interested in you, but even if you had lucked out, quote unquote, and they had said yes, then who do you think they're going to be selling harder? Joshua Bell, where the commission's going to be probably 10 times what someone who is just starting as a soloist is going to be, if not maybe more than that. Or of course they're going to be selling the more so. And so it's the people with the higher fee. And so you need to not only get onto someone's roster, but somebody who's going to really be championing you and your cause and your artistry, which is really important. And as a side note, Karen, who you just mentioned, after she heard, I think that the Ryan Anthony episode, which was the very first one, like the next day, she emailed me out of nowhere with saying like, "Hey, when can you have?" And there were a few names. I think they'd be great for your podcast. So that's someone that is championing your cause, which is really great and very important to look for.
Yeah, I agree. It's I'm really lucky to have her. She's really on top of everything. And
yeah, it was 12 hours after the thing posted. I mean, yeah, no joke. So, and she did it right, by the way, in terms of networking, whether it's for yourself or for other people. She specifically commented, and just said, hey, introduced herself, said, where she was from, and, and said that she really enjoyed the episode with Ryan Anthony, etc. So it wasn't just some random, hey, I see you have a podcast, and I'm not even going to bother to put the name of the podcast or any of the guests, or not make it even at all obvious that I even listen to the thing, but here are the people that I need you to interview because that will make me look good to them.
Right.
It was, it was done correctly. It was done in a way that it made me want to respond, and I did, whereas we've all received emails where we don't want to respond. So sadly, management that's that dialed in is pretty rare. So just as a warning to folks. So
we got to remember to get you to say the word championing as often as possible.
yeah, I know. I struggle with it. All it's better than virtuostic, which I put a T on that on Carol Yonch's episode. I said like virtuostic, and I kept talking, and I was like, that didn't sound right, but I'm in the middle of a sentence, and then of course, because I'm an idiot, I said it again 2 sentences later, and then Carol and Lance both on the video started snickering, and so then I said a third one intentionally just because I've learned if you just double down on stupid, then it usually will end up working better. It's like in a solo. If you hit the wrong note in a jazz solo, you just kind of you play it a few times. You're like, I totally intended on that. I'm just really hip. So yes. So Mary, you're very virtuosic with your trumpet playing. So I just wanted to let you know that.
He's championing your
championing. I'm a professional tuba player. What should I do? I know I should start a project where I have to speak all the time. That's a really good business idea. Yeah. And Lance said, yes, that is a good idea, Andrew. I'll go in on this with you. So, oh goodness.
All right. So hey, Mary, I see on your website you're a Yamaha performing artist. So Yamaha is obviously another part. You have this team that's kind of helping you between what you want to do and your management, and then how does Yamaha fit into that? What's the structure of that relationship like, and how do they help you achieve your goals?
They help when I need additional help for a master class. When, if the university can't fund all of it, they help with that, which is really great. And just the instruments are so great, and I love working with Wayne Tanabe and Bob Malone. They've helped me so much with just tweaking my horns and making them really great. And that's been my favorite part of it, is working with those two guys.
When a horn is tweaked, if somebody's not familiar with what that means, what do they do to help you get the instruments the way you need them?
Well, this is funny. Bob has this like magical hammer. He'll like put this little piece of
wait.
And just...
Thor?
Yeah. Thor.
The worthy to pick it up?
Bob Thor Malone.
When he opens the case, it's like a glowing light with the magic hammer.
Pretty much. It has, sparkles and,
That's really funny that she thought she was going to be able to...
Hey, this is Lance. We'll get you right back to the interview in just a minute. I wanted to, first of all, thank you all for listening. You've been wonderful. We've got hundreds of you that are listening to every episode, and that's just great. It's very rewarding to Andrew and me. And we wanted to let you know that if you're interested in helping us cover the costs associated with recording and uploading and storing these podcasts, there's a quick and easy way for you to do that, and that's through a site called Patreon, Patreon. And at Patreon, if you sign up through that site, you can pick a dollar amount, $1, $3, $5, $10, however much you want, and every time we upload an episode, your account will be deducted for that amount, and you can set an upper limit per month or per year so that if we end up uploading additional content, that you won't be charged more than wherever you set that limit. You also will get access to some free downloads and behind the scenes things that Andrew and I are working on in preparing for future episodes. So if you're interested in helping out, we'd love to have you help you. Thank you very much for listening. Spread the word. Visit pedalnotemedia.com, click on the donate button, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. And now back to your regularly scheduled podcast, already in progress.
Let's say that, and then she tried to keep talking as if we weren't both going to jump in. Like, whoa. That's adorable.
That is a talking dog. But anyway.
Yeah. All right.
I didn't really know before working with them. I didn't know what big of a difference such small things would have on the resonance of the trumpet. Something simple as how tightly the screw is on the spit valve, or Wayne has these corks for the spit valve that have like a resonator in it, so it lasts forever. Something like that can completely change the sound color, and the whole resonance of the instrument. And so when you work with them, they have these little tricks that they do. They can replace a valve cap or something, and they just tweak it to the sound, to the exact sound that you want. And so I didn't realize that any of that stuff made a difference before that.
And that does, when you travel with these horns, is this a thing that you have to sort of constantly go back in and get fine-tuned?
Every now and again, I would say maybe at least once a year, I try to see one of them, because things change, and maybe you want something a little bit different. Yeah, so it's about like once a year that I try to see either Bob or Wayne.
So let's go back a minute. And you said that maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but the way I understood it, when you came up, you sort of thought you were going to go after this orchestral career. And then you said, studying with that Canadian guy, you had the notion that you could follow your dreams. How long was being a soloist or chamber musician this thing you thought about doing before you really went for it?
Well, when I was a teenager, it was what I really wanted to do. But
why was that? I mean, were you inspired by somebody, or where'd that come from?
I played a couple of recitals and a concerto appearance when I was 16. And, my first concerto was Artunian Concerto at an orchestra camp. And it was the most fun I had on stage ever. And it just felt very special and what I should be doing. But then I went to Curtis, and I came from a mindset of, okay, well, how do I make a living? And I kind of, with my peers at the time, who were all great, and I just had it in my head that I wasn't going to be able to be a soloist, that I had to make a living, and that getting an orchestra job would maybe be the best path so I could, pay my bills and eat. I had to pay, I paid my way through school, and I was always a little bit worried about that, about how I was going to take care of myself. And so I just had it in my head that, okay, I have to get an orchestra job. And it wasn't, I enjoy playing in an orchestra, but I kind of stayed away from the solo playing during that time. And I felt kind of empty in my mid-20s doing that. I was, taking orchestra auditions and pursuing something that I kind of wanted to do, you know what I mean? And finally, I just was like, I need a change. I need to change something, or I need to stop playing. And so I started seeking out a lot of teachers just to get some inspiration. That's kind of where it started. And I took a few lessons with Houchin Hardenberger, and I went to a trumpet camp, Chosenvale, which, it's tons of great trumpet players to learn from. And my eyes started opening a little bit. And it wasn't until I went to the BAM Center in 2010 for the brass seminar and study with Jens that he was, he kind of was like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? And what do you want to do? And why can't you do it? And that's when I recorded my first demo CD. And then I finally started being brave enough to start pursuing, but it has been a long process. But every year keeps getting better. I mean, I've only been doing the solo route for about 5 years, pushing really hard. And so, my path has been a bit different with doing mainly orchestral playing in my 20s, but, I'm grateful for that too, because that comes very easy to me. I think it makes me a better teacher. And I also find that challenging myself with new repertoire all the time has helped my orchestra playing. I didn't win the second job in Des Moines. It's a 5-week festival. I didn't win that position until after I was working on a lot of really difficult solo rep. So, making that tape for that audition didn't seem as difficult after some of the music that I was working on. So I just think it makes playing overall a lot more flexible, and everything just becomes easier when you don't just do one thing, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. There's what part of my job at Carnegie Mellon is I'm the freshman advisor, and I sit down with these students, and a lot of them say, "Well, I want to be in an opera company, or I want to play in an orchestra," largely because they don't know that there's another option, and they think, "Oh, well, that's the quote unquote easy route," which is crazy. I mean, we all know that there's just that's an incredibly difficult direction to go in for us, and so I just grant them permission that the universe grant. I just anoint them with my magic hammer that you have the permission of the universe to go in whatever direction you want. And it sounds like Jens just sort of shook that loose in your head and gave you the permission that you needed to kind of charge directly in the direction you wanted to go. Does that seem about right, you think?
I think so. I mean, I wish I had started my path 10 years earlier, but maybe things are meant to happen when they happen, because, you know, I'm a little bit older now, and I have my goals are very clear, and I'm much more organized, and you know, so I think things happen in their own time.
So
social media is mature enough now too that you can capitalize on that, where it wasn't 10 years ago, maybe.
Yes.
Right. I remember, you know, I recorded my CD last summer at Curtis, and just seeing some of the things that they have available. I remember I'm not that old, but I'm starting to feel a little bit older, because all of my recital tapes from undergrad are on VHS. And they're very blurry.
Well, don't start with me.
You know, now the current students, they get this amazing footage from their recitals that is HD. They can put it up on YouTube immediately, and just, you know, things are just better quality and easier, that, you know, that wasn't available to me as an undergraduate. And so I'm grateful to have those things now. I think that having the YouTube channel and being able to put up video has been like the biggest thing for me to get my career going. Yeah, because, you know, 5 years ago, no one knew who I was. And so, you know, how do you get people to know? You put up, if you have a great product, then you share it with everybody.
The good news is that anyone can share what they're up to with the world. The bad news is that anyone can share what they're up to with the world. So it's hard to get noticed. And the day before Lance won the Air Force Band audition, the day before I won the Boston Brass audition, we were a lot less known than the day after, and yet there's a whole lot of things that have to fall in place, and a lot of it's just dumb luck in terms of a brass quintet having a tuba opening, you know, without someone specifically in mind that wasn't me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's exciting that the gatekeepers are not there anymore. If you want to make a recording, you make it. You don't need to convince Columbia Records that they need to front $12,000 for you to be able to make a recording. You can just make it. You can make the CD. You can go with Summit, or you can release the CD yourself. You can. You don't have to have a huge budget for a videographer to then not have anywhere to put it. You can put up your own YouTube videos. But what I think that you've done a really good job of, and this always goes without saying, and yet is always still worth mentioning, was that that if you couldn't play your tail off on the trumpet, then none of this matters at all. So because, you know, it's a flashy video, it looks nice, we click on it, and then you can't really play very well. And I'm not going to be mad, but I'm not going to click on your next video ever. You know, I'm not going to hire you for my concert series, etc. So that's kind of that's the minimum. That's just, if you want to be a trumpet soloist, you have to be a great trumpet player. That's just kind of that's a requirement. That's not a value add. But when I look at your videos, when I look at your website, when I look at the photographs on your website, it seems like you have a very clear idea. Your photographs are beautiful. Like, they're obviously done by a professional photographer who had a very specific, thing in mind. And it seems like you had a very specific image that you were trying to portray in mind, across all of these things. So I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about that in terms of the website, the videos, the photos, etc.?
Sure. And I 100% agree with you that before someone releases media, you have to be very confident and strong in your own playing, and your playing has to be at a high level. I mean, that's just a given with it all. But then there are a lot of great players. So how do you make yourself stand out as a product that someone wants to hire? Because a concert series is going to look at your website for maybe 5 seconds, and how do you draw them in? And so I have the people that I found to help me with the media. I had the same, when I was looking for a photographer, I was hunting down a very specific look that I wanted, and I found this woman in Long Island, Lisa Mitsuko, and she's an artist. She doesn't just take a photo, an awkward classical music photo. She makes it into an art form. And so I sought her out for the photos, and then I made sure that my media was exactly the way I wanted it. And the website design, my brother takes care of that, and he has a very great eye. He was the one that advised me to say less is more. And so if you see my website, it scrolls in one page, and I don't have everything up there. I don't put all 50 videos up. You pick your best ones that you want to showcase. You pick your best couple photos. You have your bio. You make it so someone can kind of see who you are in 30 seconds, because that's all people have time for. You know what I mean? Like, as people have a very short attention span, they don't. Less is more on a website, I think. And if they want to discover more, then they can go to your YouTube channel and things like that. And then my CD that I recorded last year, that was also the same process. I was very particular with what music I wanted to play, and I was not willing to budge in my artistic vision at all. And I think that paid off well. I had, some friends and colleagues saying, oh, you should record some popular tracks too, so people will want to buy it. And I was like, nope, I'm doing all American music, newer music. And I picked tracks that I thought were also accessible to the public. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and it's gotten a lot of attention, a gramophone review, and I had an interview on NPR. And so what I've learned is that if you have a strong episode. So I think that staying with, if you have a strong vision, a really strong vision, don't let anyone compromise that. Just, if it's that strong, stick with it, do everything. And another point that I want to bring up is trying to do everything at the highest quality has paid off. It might cost you a little bit extra, but over the scheme of your whole life, it's not that much extra, and one should not try to pinch pennies in a way. You know what I mean? Like for the CD, I had an engineer in mind. He lives in Germany. I met him at the Banff Center, and his name is Florian. And for my demo CD, he recorded the sound on the trumpet. It was just this perfect. It was exactly what I wanted to hear coming from myself. Like, he knew exactly where to put the mics. I don't know. It was just a great relationship. And so
that's worth the money.
I flew him from Germany because I trusted him, and I knew that I wouldn't have to worry during the session if he was getting all the takes. I'm like, Florian's the master. He's going to take care of me. And he did. It was, we recorded 72 minutes of music in a very short time. And I had the team of people that I wanted, and I think it really paid off.
That's great. Yeah, I just love, I've already used the word, but I love how intentional everything is, that you have a clear vision in your head of what you want your sound to be on the album. You had a clear vision of what you wanted the photographs to look like. You had a clear vision of, or sounds like your brother had a clear vision that matched up with yours. So, you sought out someone else who had a clear vision for your website that lined up with yours. And it's just all very intentional, which is great. The more I'm around this business, the more I realize that the key to a successful recording is that you need to make a recording that you're fiercely proud of, and not just the playing, but the repertoire, what it looks like, how your sound is captured, all of the above. And people can tell when you're proud of the photos that are taken, not in an ego way, just in like an art way, in a presenting yourself in a sales kind of way, because we're all we're all salespeople. We especially with you booking all of these things, whether it's individual appearances or with Chrysalis or with Serif or all of the above. It's like you're trying to convince other people of something. And another thing you hit on in terms of how your website doesn't have everything and doesn't have all 50 of your videos. I was just reading about I'm reading a sales book right now, which is To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink, which is a really fascinating book. I would recommend it to anybody who's in the music business, who's trying to sell themselves. And there was a famous study that was referenced in a supermarket of there was a jam sample table where they put 50 different jams out on this table, and about how there was a lot of traffic, but they then put out in the same place on the same day, but like the following week, at the same time, they put out a table that had 6 jams on it, and it was 6 of the 50. And anyway, the conversion rate, was something like 3% of the people that stopped when there were 50 jams purchased jam, and when there was only 6 choices, it was 30%. It was 10 times as many. And so I think a concert presenter can be scared off when they look and see that you have 50 videos posted all on your website. It's kind of like when you ask a waitress, or waiter, what's good here, and they say everything. That's not helpful.
Right?
And so it seems like you've done a really great job of crafting your message and of telling them what you, and by the way, of having a message, but yeah, everyone should go to her website, marybowden.com, to check it out, because I think it's a fantastic example of what a website for a soloist can be.
And another thing I noticed, I did this as an experiment. So my demo CD in 2010, I recorded Syrinx. And I've had it on my YouTube channel with just a photo, it's just a sound recording. And it didn't really get a lot of attention. And then one of my friends also who shares a great vision is my friend Pablo Camacho. He's a videographer from Uruguay. He lives in Uruguay, and he was in the States last year, and we did a set of video projects. And one of them, which you can, he does all of the camera work with one camera on, and he just balances the camera and runs around with it, and he does it all himself. It's really great. And so we did this art piece for Syrinx in different locations around Florida, where I would just, fake play with my recording. And we put together this beautiful video, and I recently posted that on Facebook, and it just blew up. It somehow our society now likes the visual, and I wish they would just listen to the Syrinx by itself. But I was doing this as an experiment to say, how can I draw people in? So I used the beautiful scenery of my hometown and Pablo's amazing directing skills, and we put together this great video, and it got thousands of views within days. And so it kind of forced people to listen to the music, like a classical music video. You can call it that, I guess.
What technology, or it can be a social media thing, or what's on the horizon that you're looking forward to taking advantage of to help further your goals as an artist? Do you see anything out there that it'd be fun to play with that thing, or I hope that this technology gets more robust so I can use that?
I guess the medium that I've been exploring is doing the classical music videos in a very tasteful way, that with someone who's an artist, like collaborating with another artist. And so that's what I've been working on, is bringing in audiences that wouldn't necessarily listen to the trumpet as a classical instrument, even people who aren't classical musicians at all. Bringing them. How do you bring them in? Well, I think the video medium is a really great way to do that if it's done the right way.
What audience are you trying to attract? I mean, you talk very clearly about I think your goals, and your branding is spectacular. And who is it that you hope? Who are you trying to reach?
Well, of course, I think I'm reaching the brass players, but thinking outside the brass world and classical music world, I'm hoping to draw on new audiences that wouldn't normally listen to classical music. I know that my aunt has been sharing my CD with some of her friends, and I found that a few people, when they actually listen to my CD Radiance, if they're not musicians, they love it. They listen to it at work, and these are new compositions, but I find that they're very beautiful compositions and accessible at the same time as being innovative. And so I was really happy with that repertoire choice and being able to draw more people in that wouldn't necessarily listen to the trumpet. So, I mean, I don't have a specific answer to that question because I'm unsure of who it will attract, but I guess I'm targeting everybody, just I want people to listen to great music.
Let's go in the other direction. Who do you look to that's in our field, and you can describe our field any way you want to, that's really doing interesting or cool things, or things you would not necessarily want to copy because they may not play the same instrument even, but they're really trendsetters in the kind of way that you would like to be?
As far as classical music?
It
Anything.
can be any genre. It doesn't even have to be music.
Oh, okay. Interesting question. I would say, I don't know if this answers your question, but someone I've really looked up to a lot is David Bowie. Because he keeps transforming himself and keeping the audience and bringing in new audiences. And, each one of his CDs is a completely different character. I'm not saying that I want to change character every time I record or something, but he is just a symbol to me of someone that isn't afraid to change and keep the audience. And he also just has this amazing stage presence. And, every decade he does something completely different and reinvents himself. And so it just, it goes to show you that it's never too late to start a new path. I started my solo, quote unquote, solo career, whatever you want to call it, in my late 20s. And, I felt bad that I didn't start when I was 16. But you can't feel bad about that because we're constantly changing and becoming better and becoming different.
So fast forward 20 years from now, what will you have accomplished if all goes according to plan?
Well, if my dream master plan, I hope to record a lot more CDs. I really want to record with an orchestra. There's some works that I have in mind that I would just love to record and keep exploring new projects with that. I would love to do a lot more solos with orchestras and keep doing the recital tours and learning new repertoire, creating new projects with new people. I hope that Serif Brass will be a brand name by that point.
What specifically do you see for Serif Brass? Like what is the brand that you're trying to go for there?
Well, Serif Brass is an all-female brass quintet, and so it will always stay that way because we want to, champion women brass players in the country, and so that's the main idea of it. But also picking players that are great players and great people, and so I think that branding will go a long way. And as far as the future, this is our first official year of performing together. So it will be an interesting journey to see what doors open. And for next season, we're on the roster for the Allied Concert Services. And so already we're starting to have a following, and I just hope that each year it keeps building and we really get to know each other and build our repertoire. I think it's something that's going to happen organically. And so I can't really say what it's going to form into in 20 years because I don't want to limit the possibilities of what the group is going to be.
Do you tend to do, well, for lack of a better way to describe it, sort of the Boston brass model, where it's sort of a quote-unquote classical-ish first half and a jazzier, poppier second half? Or is it more out of, say, an American brass model where it's more quote unquote serious literature, or somewhere in between, or what's the focus artistically right now?
Right now, with the audiences that we will have, with the Allied tours and with performing in Florida, I really do love the Boston brass model. I think it's a great variety of music, and it keeps the audience drawn in. And I think there's a place for the serious, the concert to be all serious music too. If it just depends on the concert series and the audience. I think that we have to be really mindful of that, of what audience that we're playing for.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, and I didn't mean to describe it as though Boston Brass was the ones who invented it. I just was trying to get an idea.
We did, though, right?
It was Andrew did it. It was Andrew's
yeah, it was
idea.
totally my vision.
Sort of woke up and he took his magic pencil and he wrote us
a magic ball peen hammer. Yeah, exactly. I'm nothing if not a visionary. I mean, obviously. So your husband is a trumpet player.
Yes.
Do you guys get along?
Not at all. No, we actually met at a trumpet audition.
Wait, what?
Who won?
Yeah, who won exactly? Probably either neither of them or both of them. That's why they're together.
Well, Dave, we met at the Naples audition. So Dave, he won the audition. But yeah, I would never have thought to meet my future husband at a trumpet audition. It works out really well because we're both really big trumpet nerds. And so, we do practice separately, but it's nice to have another set of ears in the house to, hey, come listen to this. What can I do differently? And so we learn a lot from each other. And I also think that, when we go on vacation, we take the trumpets with us. We keep practicing. And I think, and that's more so on brass than other instruments, that if you have concerts coming up, you can't afford to take the time off. Even if you want to go on vacation, the trumpet just doesn't work that way. You take 3 or 4 days off and it's, it takes a week to get back. And so we're great to vacation together because we both understand that. And so we'll just bring the trumpets and practice wherever we are. And I think if I had ended up with a non-musician, I could see that driving someone crazy. I mean, we drive ourselves crazy sometimes. Like, oh man, we got to practice. Oh yeah, we should practice. We should get the hour in before we go sightsee. And we also like playing together. We want to do more recitals together and hopefully do some more commissions for two trumpet repertoire. So that's something also in the future that I'm looking forward to. I'd like to do more concerts with Dave.
Yeah, his name is Dave Dash. I don't think I said that at the beginning. So for anybody wondering, and he's the assistant principal, right, of Naples?
Yes, and He also plays in the summer. He plays in Santa Fe Opera.
Oh, very cool. And he used to be in the Marine Band.
Yes.
Yeah. Until that's called winning an audition. When you show up at the audition, you win the audition, and you find your future bride, and then you go home. That's a good weekend right there.
Most guy trumpet players think that's just Tuesday.
Yeah.
Of course that happens. Yeah.
How many people?
I go to the grocery store, I get to the door, and the door's automatically open.
Yeah, we're probably going to get some emails. We haven't really been trumpet bashing, and I'm not sure why, because we're talking to a trumpet player. So I'm glad we got to it eventually, or we would be remiss, because we've kind of. Lance and I both made a living on stage bashing trumpet players, which, by the way, has worked on the 4 continents that I've attempted it. It's worked on all 4 of them. So, I'm hoping to be able to try it on the other 3 eventually. But it's like, even when people don't speak your language, you just kind of play air trumpet and then just make a face, and then everyone laughs. So, just as an FYI. So
it'll kill in Antarctica.
Yeah, I bet it would. So you mentioned that obviously Jens Lindemann, our good friend, has been was very influential with you in your career path. I'm sure you've heard about the chop problems that he's been going through, and so we just didn't know if you had any words of encouragement or advice or anything else like that for Jens in this time of need.
Hands in this time of need. I would. Oh man, I was thinking the whole episode of how I was going to answer this question, and
It's emotional. I understand.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how can I be funny? Can I say something funny? And I'm like, man, I am not funny. I got nothing. I don't know.
You don't. She has nothing because she actually doesn't want his job problems to get better because
That's
it's
exactly right.
helped her solo career. She's picking up some of those gigs and that he had to cancel. So, yeah, we see what you're doing there.
Very subtle. I like
She's
it.
masking it with a little laughter.
No,
Oh,
I wouldn't say anything bad about poor Yen.
oh goodness. All right. So Lance, is there anything that I'm forgetting?
We've mentioned it, but why don't you tell us again what your website is, and if people want to contact you or find out about upcoming performances or releases, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. My website is www.marybowden.com. And from there, you can find the links to my Facebook fan page and also YouTube. And I do a lot more of the announcements on Facebook, but all the events are on the website as well.
I think I'm glad I only mispronounced your last name twice. I think so. I think it was once at the top and once in the middle.
I think everybody does that, and I don't know. I'm not sure what the polite way of correcting is.
be like, hey, dude, if you want me to appear on your podcast for no money, you could at least pronounce my name correctly. Yeah, that would have been one way to do it. So marybowden.com. So that's good. I've at least been pronouncing it wrong for close to a decade. So that's nice. You're too polite. I should have heard about that a long time ago. So. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're, I know both Lance and I are excited to see, the trajectory of your career is absolutely is going up, and been exposure and everything else, and so it's exciting to see where you're headed.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being on. It was great.
Absolutely. And that will do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Austin Boyer and Buddy Deschler of the Fredericksburg Brass Institute. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.